It's not all going to plan for Arsenal this season. Liverpool are racing away at the top of the table, and now they've got injuries to key players. They kept getting players sent off. They keep relying on corners. They need goals. But what if Mikel Arteta could fix all of this in the transfer market? Welcome to Sensible Transfers, where we look for weaknesses in squads and identify solutions to those problems. And remember, it's not about what we think the clubs will do, it's what we think they should do. But first, we need to work out what it is Arsenal actually need, and what they need is goals, and specifically goals scored from chances created in open play. Because as you can see, they don't create as many as certain other teams. And the conundrum we need to solve is, why is this happening in the first place? And does a player transferred in solve that? So let's look at what Arsenal actually do and start from there. So we know it's this 4-3-3, we know they have a striker who's not really a striker and drops in quite a lot. We've got Odegaard who goes forward but also drops in and goes wide quite a bit. The wingers come inside to attack, and the fullbacks aren't really fullbacks. And all of this works very well, but there's a reason they don't create that many chances in open play. And it's to do with having a good, solid rest defence. So what Arteta wants to do is, when he gets into any attacking situation, he wants to have certain lines guarded by players. So the reason he has players in set positions is so that if they lose the ball, they are then completely safe. And it ends up, what happens when players drop in and out, you end up passing the ball around in a kind of horseshoe shape, but you have total control of the pitch. The opposition is pinned back, you have control of the pitch defensively, so all the things you're doing in an attacking sense are designed to be more solid defensively, and that's what the rest defense is. And so all of this is designed to minimize risk, but to create chances you have to take risks. And what ends up happening a lot with Arsenal's situation like this, where you have the team in this sort of position here, they're in position to guard against any counterattacks if they lose the ball, but they're not really risking forward passes. So you have here Kai Havertz, the striker, dropping into these sort of positions here, where he can offer a bounce pass, but it always goes sideways and backwards, and Everton don't have anyone to look after. These two defenders don't have anyone to look after, they can squeeze up if they want to. What you want probably is someone making runs in behind, but they're not really doing this sort of thing, and so Arsenal aren't taking the risks to create the chances, but that means they have control of the game, so eventually they can grind opponents down and then score from a corner or something like that. So as I said, everything they're doing in an attacking sense is designed to be strong defensively. Another problem they have is that because they mostly build down the right, teams can predict this and adjust accordingly. You can see that they have more play down that side than basically any other team in the entire league, and this is a bit of an issue. And the other thing is that by the time they get the ball to these wide right positions, the opposition's normally in their defensive shape because Arsenal are so slow in build-up. And that brings us to our first sensible transfer. What we need is someone who can explode to life like Saka does on the right-hand side, on the left, because for me, Martinelli might not be that player. And the player we've mentioned for the last 3 sensible transfers in a row is still the same one they should be buying. Arsenal should be buying Nico Williams. However, we've talked about him a lot before, so instead I'm going to give you 2 more options that are a very different profile. And the profile is important, because the profile of winger that Arteta wants, we think, in his team is someone who can play like on the line here and go outside and inside a fullback. And that changes how fullbacks defend against him. If you know a player is going to take you on the outside, you defend in a different way, different body shape. If you have a player who can go outside and inside you, you're in a lot of trouble. And that's what Nico Williams especially can do. But I think because of the way that Arsenal play, and they get into these positions where they have a lot of possession, the opposition is pinned back into their defensive shape, they've got lots of time on the ball, and you need someone who can come to life from a stop position. Now, an elite version of this player would be someone like Rodrigo at Real Madrid or Rafa Leao at AC Milan, but theirs is very expensive and not sensible. So I'm looking right down to potential wonder kids who might be able to offer us something different. If we look at what Martinelli does as a player, you can see that he's good at taking the ball on with carries and receives the ball quite high up the pitch, but his passing and his vision is just not really what you maybe want in a position where you want to open up a defence. So I was looking for a player who can dribble, plays wide left, but can also open up a defence with these kind of visionary through balls. And I found one. And his name is Alberto Molero. He plays for Las Palmas in Spain. He plays on the left. He's a bit more of an inside midfielder, but you can see that he has the 19th most successful take-ons in the top 5 leagues over the last 365 days. He can dribble, but more importantly, he can play a pass. So here is Molero playing against Real Sociedad, and I'll show you what exactly I'm looking for here. He's playing on the left side. He comes inside into these central areas, much like Arsenal's left-sided midfielder would do quite a lot. So I'm kind of looking at a really different kind of profile and role here in this system for Arteta. So here's Molero. He goes against the momentum of the opposition player, catches him off balance. That's really clever, just dribbling, just catching him off guard. And then what you can see is there is a pass in behind which he threads through brilliantly. There's a few examples of him making this sort of pass either in the final third or deep. And if they have runners in behind, say you've got Gabriel Jesus or someone, Martinelli, even playing up top, running in behind, that gives Arsenal more chances to open up defences when they're playing slightly higher up the pitch like this. But it's something they don't really have at the moment from that position. It's a different kind of profile. But there are some tactical problems with this I should address. You don't think I'm talking total nonsense. Because if Malero is the wide left and comes inside these positions where I think he's probably going to be best in his career, what you're going to get is, well, the first problem obviously is there's no width now. And so if you play a defender like Calafiore, you might be able to gain that. But you start seeing the problems because then you have to move Rice out here maybe, which doesn't really work. And you'll put him inside here and bunch them out together. But then you leave space in this sort of position, which is going to take apart Arteta's rest defense that he wants, because you need to have someone in this position. You start having knock-on effects elsewhere. So it's not perfect tactically, it doesn't really actually work, which means our next pick has to be someone who works more within the framework. Now I've gone a bit rogue here because I've picked another player who is probably actually better playing in these sorts of positions that Declan Rice takes up when he's left-sided midfielder, and that player is Iliman Ndiaye. He's the one at Everton who's really, really fun to watch, really magical, can come to life in a moment. He can be one of our game breakers, one of the clutch players who can produce something out of nothing. Because although he does like playing as like an attacking midfielder or a 10 as he was at Sheffield United, when he plays in these positions here off the left, he can dribble past players almost at will. He can take on people at the same time, go past them and open something up. If he can take these on, dribble past them, he can open up something for someone else. That's the sort of player I think would really help Arsenal because they're so slow getting to the final third and then they end up having to pass around. If they have a player who can get towards the fullback and a midfielder or whoever else is there and do something to go past them to create something out of nothing, that's going to help them open up and create chances. But it's not just about dribbling in the final third. I think Ndiaye does things all over the pitch which open a game up. And it's really useful for a team like Arsenal specifically. Here's an example against Man City. I really like this. It's very simple, but here he is playing away from goal. And he's dragging a midfielder out to create space. And then he sort of changes his body angle at 90 degrees, plays the ball in, and then goes into the space to receive the 1-2. But this one little trick opens it up a little bit and drags players away, which then creates space wide for this player to run into because players are drawn towards him. And if you have this sort of player that can do things like that, it's really, really useful. And because he is kind of like a 10, he wears number 10, you think he might want to play in the middle of the pitch, but I think he does suit playing wide left, and it would suit Arsenal as well. So if you see here's him playing wide left against Chelsea, and they're defending quite deep Everton in the blue here, going to right to left. Now when the ball drops, he is wide left, receives the ball, and this is where you see him opening up the game a little bit, because he's running towards a big defender. So Disasi goes towards him, he takes him on, jinks past really easily, really quickly, and is straight past him, burning away. Pedro Neto comes to try and get him. He takes the ball all the way up to near the opposition box before eventually being run out of the play and winning a free kick. Ndiaye, I think, is a potential game-breaking player for Arsenal who could open things up. We need to move on to our next position though, and I know that Saka is injured, so we should probably cover that, but we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to do a striker, the age-old problem of who Arsenal should sign up front. What we know we need is a striker who can run in behind to stretch the defence and create space for others by making that movement. We need a player who can come in deep to link with the play and add a tactical advantage in midfield, and probably someone who can move out to the left and rotate with that sort of player there. And also, if we consider that Arsenal won't have all that much money to spend, maybe they should look for someone in the Premier League, one of those smaller clubs like we said with Ndiaye. Someone they can steal from a rival who can make them even better. And I have the perfect player. The absolute best player Arsenal should sign this window. And that player is Matheus Cunha of Wolves. He is phenomenal. What a player. And the thing with Cunha that makes him so special is that he scores goals you shouldn't be able to score. This is what makes him special. Observe, here are Wolves in purple playing against Fulham in white. Now, here is Cunha, stationed in this sort of deeper position. So we can do a lot of things. You can play him with another forward as well. You could do this. But what you'll see here is that he knows when to make these runs in behind to try and open up the opposition. So the ball is over here. The move starts. He realizes that there's space behind to be run into. He runs into it. But crucially, he's able to take it down with one touch and finish it with the next. It's genius play, really quick play. And here he is now moving out to the left half space so he can play centre forward or wide, but he can do this quite a lot. And what he does here is score a goal from a position that no human should be able to score from. He does this quite a lot. He breaks his expected goals quite consistently. It's really odd. He scores goals from positions that you shouldn't. And that's something Arsenal could do with. Everything's measured and slow. But when you get in these positions, someone's got to take a chance and take a risk in a position where you can still be in your rest defence and get a shot away. And that's what Cunha can do. But I have one more player who is actually more suited probably to what Arteta wants and keeps doing. Someone tall, strong, aggressive, who takes up good positions in the box, can drop in and link, but also attack crosses, because this is what they do. They move the ball from side to side. You want someone who can attack the ball into the box. And so we've got Dusan Vlahovic, who has been linked before, but he's an excellent player, and I've got a few examples to show you why I think he would make a difference. Here he is. You can see he is massive in the middle. The ball is wide right. The ball is played backwards. They work it from side to side, just like Arsenal do, but constantly he's repositioning himself to make sure he can run into where the space is. He drags defenders in the way so he can get into the spaces that are created. Here he is again. So Vlahovic is now in the middle again. Defenders worried about him because he can attack across quite aggressively. The ball is in the wide left, the ball comes in, he just wins a header against about 2 defenders right next to him, they're really aggressive on it. He's able to win that header, something that Arsenal can't really do with the profile of player they have with Havertz and Jesus at the moment. Vlahovic gives them all that link-up play, the kind of aggressive number 9 that you might want, and because he's a giant, he also helps at set pieces, which is obviously what Arsenal want. But what I think they should really want to do is just sign Matheus Cunha. I think he's one of the best players in the Premier League. He gives them options wide left. You can play on the right, you can play in midfield as a more withdrawn striker, or maybe an attacking midfielder if you want him to. I think he'll end up being a centre forward eventually. That's where he's going to be at his best, and he's the one I think would open up all sorts of fun for Arsenal were they to buy him. But of course, that is what I think they should do, not what they will do. If you want to know what they will do, you should read The Athletic and follow the deal sheet with David Ornstein, who's got all the reporting that's actually real and based on facts. But that's what we've got for sensible transfers so far. I'll be back soon with one in Man United, so subscribe for that, and see you then. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Amy Lawrence, and James Horncastle. With the latest transfer news and insight on every Premier League story that matters, theathletic.com puts you inside football, and you can try it free now for 30 days.